Okay, so in this video, I'm doing part 3, week 1 of lectures, right? So there's 3 parts of part 1, right? So I'm just going to do quick because I never studied part 4, so I just have to do this quick, right? So let's see. Okay, session 1. Now we go on to this, right? The aggregate supply and the aggregate demand. Now, of here, it's missing, right? They're supposed to have a normal demand and supply curve, but it's missing, but it's fine. It's wrong anyway. This is supposed to be price level, this is supposed to be real GDP, and why it is that. But we'll see a graph just now on this. So aggregate supply. Now your aggregate supply, there's two types of aggregate supply. You got your long run aggregate supply and you got your short run aggregate supply, right? Now the supply, the quantity of supply, right? So basically this is like a skeleton of your supply curve, any supply curve you get. This will basically affect the supply. So you know when you see that line, the supply line, so it either will go to the left, shift to the left, shift to the right. All those things over here, if these change, it'll cause a shift to the supply curve. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that link these factors to the supply curve, because when these change, it'll shift the supply curve. The only thing that won't shift the supply curve in this case is the price level, because on the y-axis is the price level and the x-axis is your real GDP. So obviously that causes move along. But all these things other than price level, which all the things over here, causes a shift. Now short-run aggregate supply and long-run aggregate supply is completely different. You have to know the reason extremely well why it's a difference, right? So short-run aggregate supply is like a normal supply curve. When prices go up, businesses be very, very happy, so they produce more. Now this is real GDP in this x-axis, right? Real GDP. Y-axis is price level. But what does it mean? People get confused. The thing is, when you think of real GDP, it's basically telling the total value of goods and services you produce. So the total quantity of goods and services you produce. So the number of goods you produced. Over here, the price level is how much all those goods cost. That's what literally it actually means simply. So obviously, as price goes up of the goods, businesses will supply more of the goods, produce more, because more goods, more profit. They're making money. People they buying it, right? Price is going up, they're getting a lot of profit. But why in the long run it's vertical, right? It's vertical. Now in the long run, now I want you to think of it logically real, right? Short run, right? If you own a business in a short run, let's say 6 months. 6 months you open up a business, huh? You own a business. 1st of January, right, you're going to create a contract with your employees. So your employees, you'll create a contract with them, right? The contract of a business usually lasts for a year, right? So in that contract, the contract will state, for example, you earn 10,000 Rand per month. So will you agree with me that from January to December, that whole year, the person will earn 10,000 Rand per month? That's a contract. It has agreement. They won't change the salary, right? So that's what a short run is. Their salary is fixed. So when prices goes up, right? When prices goes up, do their salary goes up? No. The worker's salary stays the same. So this case, the business is actually taking advantage of the employees. Because guess what? The price is going up. I don't have to pay more salaries to my employees. So literally that's cost saving, right? The salaries stays the same, but you're getting more profit in the business. You don't have to increase the salaries because that will be an expense. So you see, so you're keeping salaries constant and you're getting more money. So that's good. But in the long run, think about it. Now I said in the first case, think of 6 months. What if you think of 2 years? Because what will happen? When I said January to December, you created a contract, right? That contract, you have to renew it next year, the second year. So when you create the new contract in the second year, according to the price, because the price went up, according to laws, you have to actually increase the prices you pay to your employees, the salaries. And because in the long run, you actually have to increase the salaries, because now the contract is over of them paying 10,000 Rand for 12 months, you have to actually increase the salaries. So because you increase the salaries, the price going up, it doesn't really affect the business in terms of producing more goods. Because, for example, let's say you earn 100 Rand now, right? You earn 100 Rand and the product costs 10 Rand. If you earn now 200 Rand and the product costs 20 Rand, both of them has risen in proportion. Same thing. So it makes no difference. That is why in the long run, it makes no difference. You will produce the same output at different prices, but the same output you would produce, because in the short run, yes, the business can produce different outputs because they're taking advantage of the employees. It's good, right? Price level is going up. People are buying more for your products, but you don't have to pay your employees more. So that's good. Take advantage of the short run, but in the long run, you can't do that because you have to change the amount of salaries employees get, and because you have to increase their salaries, that's bad. So every single year you increase the salaries, increase the salaries, increase the salaries. Every single year there is no change. It's vertical, constant, no relationship, vertical. That is why you get a long run. So changes in aggregate supply, right? So obviously anything besides the price level changes the aggregate supply. So obviously changes in potential GDP and changes in the money wage rate. Money wage rate could be like what you salaries you're giving your employees. If it increases, it'll shift the supply to the left. Also, when you think of money wage rate, think of supplies, cost of oil, right? Your raw materials, those things. Increases the prices of those oils, raw materials, it decreases supply because you supply less of the product. It's costing you too much money to produce. Changes in potential GDP. Potential GDP, we'll look at what it is three components. Okay, very, very important. Your potential GDP is made of three things, right? The way I would think about it, it's two things related to the employers and resources. When I say two things related to employees, I mean how much of employees you got, the quantity of labor, and then the amount of capital, so skills of the employees, or capital, like what physical capital you have in your business. For example, you have machines, money, all that. Then technology. So these three things make up potential GDP. Now, so you know how it's talking about the long run aggregate supply curve? The long run aggregate supply curve can be also called the line of potential GDP. Now you won't find this in economics, line of potential GDP. I want you to take note of that because this is potential GDP. Long run aggregate supply is what is efficient, what is good, what the business can get in the long term, long run. That's good. So this whole long run aggregate supply represents potential GDP. So if I look at this black dot over here, it's literally in potential GDP. You're producing at maximum capacity. You're producing at what is called potential GDP. So that's good, right? So now what you need to understand is this, right? When increase in potential GDP, now I want you to really think about this. The long run aggregate supply curve is made up of potential GDP, right? Long run aggregate supply curve is the mother, or is the parents, if you think about it. Whatever happens to the parents will happen to the supply curve, the short run aggregate supply. So if anything happens to this, if this shifts, the long run aggregate supply, always if the long run aggregate supply shifts, the short run aggregate supply has to shift. Normally it's always due to this. So if you have an increase in technology, the short run aggregate supply will shift from year to year. Also the long run aggregate supply curve will shift from year to year. So if anything changes in potential GDP, these three things, both will shift. Which of the following will not change potential GDP? Your expectation related to future income. Now, I said anything changes to potential GDP will change both graphs. But, anything besides potential GDP, those three components, will not change the long run aggregate supply. It will change the short run, but not the long run. The long run, I told you, is a line of potential GDP. It's only made up of those components. So if it's not made up of those components, it doesn't shift the long run, only the short run. So over here, price of oil, right? Price of oil, price of the raw material oil here. Or price of money wage rate, the price to pay employees. All those things don't fall under those three things I told you that is represented by potential GDP, which is the quantity of labor, the amount of capital you have, and resources. Literally these things, the price of oil decreasing, the raw materials price level, money wage rate, it's not that. So obviously it's going to only affect the short run aggregate supply. So if the money wage rate if an increase in the money wage rate basically means you need to pay more salaries to your employees. If you need to pay more, that's an added cost, right? That's like cost of your resources or your raw material. So that's going to the left. Even price of oil, if that increases, your supply curve is moving to the left, short run. Doesn't affect the long run. A change in the money wage rate shifts. Only shifts the, there we go. This short run aggregate supply, but not the long run aggregate supply. Very important. Which of the following will cause the short run aggregate supply curve to shift to the right? So if your short run aggregate supply is shifting to the right, that means it's good, right? You're supplying more. Decrease in wages. Decreasing in wages is very good because now you can supply more because you're not paying a lot to your employees, so there's less expense, so you will supply more. Aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is exact same as a demand curve you normally study, right? So it's normally, it's normal, right? So aggregate demand, they don't tell you over here, but anytime you get aggregate demand, right, the curve, I told you, there's a skeleton behind it, like what makes up an aggregate demand. Aggregate demand, so you know how I got that equation? C plus I plus G plus X minus M in brackets. That's your consumer spending, investments, the government, and your exports minus imports. Those things affect demand. So example, if customers spend more money, that'll affect demand. If your government spends more money, that'll affect demand. If people invest more money, that'll affect demand. So all those things affect demand. That's how I do my demand curve skeleton. The aggregate demand curve. Okay. So why does the aggregate demand curve shifts downwards, right? In microeconomics, we will say because of diminishing marginal utility. But here in macroeconomics, it's different because we're dealing with the aggregate demand. Aggregate demand means the entire amount of goods and services. That is why we say real GDP, all the goods and services. You see, different. There's two things, wealth effect and substitution effect. I'll explain it very, very simple. Wealth effect, when prices rise, you have less buying power, right? That's normal, simple. Price going up, now you'll buy less products. Substitution effect is very, very simple here. When the demand, right? When the price rises, right? People won't spend much. They will save it in banks because interest rates are high. Price increases, right? Price going up in the world. Banks will increase more loans. People want more loans. Price increasing. People need more money. Interest rate goes up, that means. Interest rate goes up. The more money you put in the bank, the higher the profit is interest. You get interest. So people will save more. They won't spend their money. They'll save more. They'll also save more because it's no use basically spending on prices that are very expensive now. So this is your normal demand curve, right? With the price level increase, so any movement along over here is caused by the change in price level. Changes in aggregate demand. So all these over here change aggregate demand, right? So anything besides price level will change aggregate demand, literally anything besides that, right? So aggregate demand changes. So example, future economic. So I'm just going to read the increases. This is just the opposite of whatever, yeah? So if you expect to earn more someday or earn more profit, you will increase demand because you know you'll get that money back. Fiscal policy increases, so the government will give people more money, so demand goes up. Monetary policy, so anytime the quantity of money increases in the economy, right, the banks, the World Bank, I forgot what the name is, they put money in the economy, everyone gets more money, demand goes up. Exchange rate decreases. Now the exchange rate decreases. When you say the exchange rate decreases, what it means, instead of exchange rate, put rand. So what it's saying, the rand decreases. If the rand decreases, people from other countries will be smiling. They can use their money and buy more products in our country. That's exports. So more exports, that means demand going up. Foreigners want more stuff. Demand is going up because our rand is weakening. When the exchange rate, the rand decreases, our money is decreasing. But when our money is decreasing, that means people from other countries are benefiting it from more because they now can buy more of our rand with their money. So all these shifts. Which of the following does not shift aggregate demand? Increase in price level, because that's the y-axis obviously. Which of the following has shifted the demand curve? Let's see. So something good. There we go. A, the quantity of money increased. More people got more money, now they're increasing demand. Short run, okay. So in the short run equilibrium, so that's the pink dot, it's normal, like how we see our demand and supply curve, right? The economy is producing at that level of the pink. That's good. Over here in the long run, now you have to study this. The way I like to see it is, if I'm looking at this pink supply, aggregate supply, ignore this blue one, ignore this one. This is good. That means the economy is producing very good because the pink dot is in the long run aggregate supply and the demand is in, so everything is intersecting over here. If I just say that there's this supply aggregate supply curve here, one is here, demand is here, this is bad because this dot is not on the long run aggregate supply. So the dot has to be on the demand curve, on the supply curve, and on the long run aggregate supply for it to be the best. This means you're producing at maximum capacity, potential GDP, extremely good. If you're producing at this black dot over here, it's called an inflationary gap. Inflationary gap. If you're producing at this gap over here, this black, is called a recessionary gap. If you produce over here, right, it's going to cause a very bad effect. You're producing more than what you could be, what you're supposed to. This long run is potential GDP. This is your potential. If you do too much more than your potential, it's going to be bad because once you hit this, see right now the demand is increasing. It was here, but you can't see it was here. It went over here. So what's going to happen after demand increases? Supply is going to increase. So the supply, this whole line here, is going to move to the pink. So can you see the price actually went up from 100, which is here, to 110 if it moves in that way. So that's how inflation actually works in this world, right? Too much of money. That is why I say your wish as a kid, just give me unlimited money. It's not impossible. It's impossible. More money means the demand is going more. But anytime the demand shifts right, supply will shift left. So when the supply now shifts left, see how we range. Every time it shifts left, it goes more up, the price is going more up. So in theory, if everyone in South Africa got R1 million, the price of bread won't stay at 20 rand. It'll literally go in proportion. So it'll literally be like 100,000 rand. Literally, that's what happens in this world economy. What is the long run equilibrium price? The long run equilibrium price is a price which we want to get to on the long run aggregate supply. So this is where the long run aggregate supply is equal to the aggregate demand. There's the aggregate demand, so this dot is here. So economic growth. Now, if you just look at the long run aggregate supply, so these blue vertical, pink vertical, if it goes from here to here, it's economic growth, right? That means potential GDP is increasing, because obviously that's the only thing that increases this thing, potential GDP. So what happens here, right? So aggregate demand. If aggregate demand, the pink curve increases, but the long run aggregate supply, like this blue curve, stays over here, there's going to be a problem. Like how I said before, this is an inflationary gap. The long run aggregate supply is here, but the demand is here. So the demand is moving more than the aggregate long run aggregate supply. The pink one is fine. If the demand moved there and the long run moved there, both of them moved, so that's good. But here the pink one, if you ignore the long run aggregate supply pink, the pink one here is moving faster than the blue long run. So that's bad. It'll cause inflation. So as you can see over here, full employment is over here. So if you look at AD moved to the right, it'll look like this. This is bad, inflationary gap. If AD here moves to the left, it look like this, recessionary gap. Can you see what happens? Price is 110, right? They're all 110, but you'll know what will happen over here. Your supply curve will move decrease, so it'll move more up. Price goes more up. All these graphs can be represented as this, right? You should know this from part 1 or part 2. If inflationary gap, this whole part of this graph is represented as this. See? When it's on here, B is represented as this. When it's all the equilibrium is left of this, it's represented as everything down here. So you can also represent it as that. So this point over here, where AD intersects short-run aggregate supply, this in the where AD intersects short-run aggregate supply. Oh, over here, short-run aggregate supply. This means, let's see. Oh, real GDP exceeds potential, because real GDP is this. So real GDP now is 1050. Potential GDP is 1000. So obviously it exceeds it. Increase in aggregate demand. So as I told you, what's going to happen when your demand goes up, the supply moves to the left. So basically the price went from here to here. See, the price was here before, but the price now goes up. Inflation. That's what happens in the long run. Anytime demand goes up, supply must shift left, inflation goes up, price level goes up. Stagflation. Stagflation is bad. So if you picture this graph, just think what is bad for real GDP. When real GDP decreases, that's bad. What is bad for price? When price goes up, that's bad. So when price goes up, real GDP goes down, decrease, it's stagflation. Also, you can just say when the supply curve moves left. When the supply curve moves left, this means real GDP is decreasing, price going up, stagflation. Demand pull inflation is where the graph is where the demand moves faster than the potential GDP. So when the demand curve is on the right of the potential GDP, that's demand pull inflation, right? Cost push inflation is where the supply curves moves left. So when supply curves move left, that is cost push inflation, right? The reason is cost, because when cost goes up in resources, supply moves left. That will cause inflation. Which of the following causes demand pull inflation? So what increases demand? Increase in government expenditure. I told you demand curve represented as C plus G plus X minus M plus I. G is government expenditure, so government expenditure is A. Stagflation is a period where real GDP decreases and price level increase. And yeah, that's it.